Okay, what I did on this piece here, this is the original flange that went with this rear end, and the bolt pattern is different than the one that's on my truck. My truck has the Spicer style U-joint. So what I did here, I machined a ring that I pressed on, then I TIG welded it to this flange, then I drilled it on my miller to match the bolt pattern that's on my truck. So what I'm going to do now is, instead of taking the flange off the truck and disturbing that rear end, I'm going to just set it up with this, and this will be good to go. Okay, I've got the flange reinstalled on the differential now, and I still got a little bit of ways to go to finish up the crush collar and setting the preload, so I'm going to go very carefully now, because like this just goes so fast. I'm gonna check that now. Okay, I've tightened this now very carefully, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is reading it's reading 13.5 inch-pounds, which is absolutely perfect for this this rear end here, and it's fine. I want to say something about these crush collars and this pinion torque. You read that if you go over the torque that you're screwed and take a new crush collar out and everything else. But first of all, metal has memory, and if you just go slightly over your range, and I don't care if you want to argue with me or not, I've done this a lot, you can back that off, especially on a brand new fresh crush collar. You can back it off and go to your go back to your setting that you want to do without any ill effects. I could almost guarantee there's nobody out there, especially a shop that's spent all the time in this, that if they go a little bit over, they don't back it off and tighten it. I'd be amazed. But in any case, this is fine. It's got the right torque, and next step will be to bolt in the carrier, and it'll be ready to install in the truck. Okay, now at this point we're ready to put the carrier back in and put the bearings back in. Now, in that this is a rebuild, I don't anticipate any problems with the setup on this. So, put the races on. And lower this in. Get a better grip on it there. Okay. Now I'll just set this in here. And that's good. Now I'll put the just going to use the original shims here. And I'll just tap this one in, it'll tap in nice. Now there's an actual tool for this. It's a little cradle that hits these little U-shaped thing that you can drive these in with, but as long as you're careful, you'll be alright. Now, you hear that rock, that noise, I can almost promise you that backlash is spot on. But what I'm going to do now is I'll put the bearings caps back on, and then we'll take a pattern reading and a backlash check. So this goes on, and these are really well thought. You can't put this on wrong because the little dowel pins don't line up if you put it on wrong. So that's a good thing. That's going on real easy. Nice. The other thing about this rear end, this bracing here makes this thing exceptionally strong. A lot of the failure on a rear end, especially on a drag car, is the pinion actually tries to walk around the ring gear, and then the mesh goes bad and the whole thing disintegrates. But this is a nice stress thing, and this is my daily driver, and I do not drag race it, let me tell you that. I'll put a little oil in each of the bolts just so the torque is good. Now these caps go to 70 foot-pounds of torque. Let me get them started here. Like I say, with this rebuild, there shouldn't be any issues with any setup problems or gear mesh or pattern or anything else. It's a very very nicely constructed rear end. I'm sort of impressed with it at this point. Okay, I'll get my torque wrench out and we'll torque these. Okay, I've got everything installed back into the housing here, and I've got the end caps for the bearings to put on. They're tightened up nice. They're almost ready for torque. So I've got them set. I got the torque wrench set to 70 foot-pounds. I'm just going to torque these off now, which is good. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is check the backlash on this, and like I say, this is nothing more than really changing the bearings in this thing, so I don't expect anything unusual to happen. And if you can see the indicator, I'm running 8 thousandths, which is fine. And that's probably how it was from the factory, like that. Actually, if you set up a bunch of these, you get to know what the clunk is back and forth, and you can almost do it without the indicator, although it's I don't recommend it. But this is good. So next step will be to check the gear pattern, and that'll be it. Okay, I've put some gear marking compound on the ring gear here, and I've run it through some revolutions. I tried to put somewhat of a load on the ring gear when I moved it, so I could get a good pattern. But I don't know if how good this is coming across, but you can see that the ovalness there is pretty much centered from the top to the bottom of the tooth, and it's a little bit favored down towards the inside of the tooth, which is fine, because actually when you apply torque to the pinion gear as you're driving, that pattern will actually shift up a little bit. So this is really good. That I had nothing to do with it. That's how it was from the factory, and I'm going to leave well enough alone on that. Now the reason I went through all these problems to begin with is the truck as it stood it's a 2013 Tacoma with 4-cylinder and a 5-speed manual transmission, and the original ratio, the standard ratio for this thing was a 330. What would happen was it was geared a little bit too high, and if you were in traffic and coming up to a line of traffic and you slowed down, a lot of times you'd have to downshift back into first gear, even if you were still moving, or the engine would lug, or if you made a sharp turn into a side street or something, you had to slow down, the truck would lug. Plus, when you get up on the turnpike, you know, you had to be above 60, 65 before you could even put it into overdrive, and even then it was you still had to go faster. So what I did is I got this ratio, which is the 358 from the automatic transmission version of my same year truck, and that's going to be good. I think that's going to put a nice balance between drivability and gas mileage. So hopefully this works. For the life of me, I think they should have swapped the gear ratios and put the 330s with the automatic and the 358s with the manual transmission. I think it would have made a better truck in both instances. But in any case, the next part of this video is going to be taking the center section back out of the truck and putting this in and giving it a test ride. So thank you for looking. Okay, at this point I've got the rear end. I got my gasket sealed on the flange. I've got my new gasket on there. I got the pumpkin ready to put in, and in a couple minutes I'm going to lift it up on the jack. It just sets in and bolted in. So that's where we are now. I got the pumpkin now into the housing here. It went in nice and easy. It's in. There's 10 bolts around there. So what I'm going to do is snug these up with my air ratchet here. Then, excuse me, use my impact and tighten them up. Then I'll bring the drive shaft down, bolt that to the flange, and I'll put the axles in, and almost done then. So thanks. Okay, I've got the axle in on the other side. These axles just press in, or not press in, they just go in. Okay, the only thing left to do is pop the axles back in. It's real easy on this truck. They just push in and you bolt them up. Little wiggling, and that's it. Goes right home. And there's 4 bolts. And that's that. So all that's left to do is hook up the brake lines where they are bolted to the axle housing for support, and fill the thing with some diff fluid, and then it'll be all set. Tell me when to start. Okay, I got this little transfer pump deal here to put the fluid into the rear end. It works pretty good. Okay, well, we just got back from the test drive of this thing, and it's light years better than it was. I'm able to get into 5th gear at a normal speed. When I go into a sharper corner, a tight corner, like a side street, I can be in 2nd gear easily. It starts off better. It was just, this whole thing was just time well spent. Why they don't do this in the factory, I haven't a clue, because with the 330 gears in this truck, it's a little bit hard to drive. It's uncomfortable. And now with the 360s in this, it's perfect. It's just perfect. So the only other thing I gotta do is take care of the speedometer reading wrong, and that'll be it. But the rear end's beautiful. It's quiet. It's no whine and drive or coast. So I'm so happy with this thing now. And thanks for looking.